No one can become something just by themselves. We always need someone who's walked a few steps further than us.
Knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it. I think with the environment that we're living in, which is incredibly toxic, given how the social media is working and how the parents are unable to do their...
The summary is, if someone's struggling, we'd advise them to find their tribe. And if they don't have a tribe, if they're still struggling to find someone, they can come to one place. What place is that? Guess Ustad. That place is Medology.
Reasons parents are failing in parenting is because they are not looking to be parents to their children. They're looking to be friends with their children at the expense of parenting. What would your advice be to him? Should he have made that move in the first place? Imagine if he had come to Medology. Well, how would you advise him? African American community, possibly one of the most beautiful people I've ever met.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm very grateful to be here, and alhamdulillah, we finally met, Ustad.
Wa alaikum assalam, Dr. Saab. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. I think this was quite a long time in waiting, and alhamdulillah, irrespective of the heat outside, I think the audience should know we're in Pakistan at the moment, so it's alhamdulillah an absolute pleasure for us to be together. May Allah bless you. But for the benefit of those who are watching for the first time, I think it'll be useful if you can give us a little bit of your introduction so everybody knows who you are and where you're from.
Of course. So, very nice to meet everyone. My name is Amin. I am a medical doctor and one of the founders of this organization called Medology, which you can see on this shirt I'm wearing. And we are a team of healthcare professionals and students that do a lot of different things. We don't like to be put into one specific category, and there's lots of initiatives that we do, but they're all centered around students and sort of helping people. And we started this 5 years ago with the mission of helping students across the world get into UK medical and dental schools. But through that journey, we've learned so much about ourselves, learned so much about the world, because we were only 18 when we began. And through that, we've learned so much and seen so many other opportunities, met so many amazing people. And our mission is now much bigger. But there are a few things that we do. We do help students across the world get into medical dental school in the UK for now, but we hope to expand that. We've built a community of healthcare professionals and students, but not just exclusive to them, but it's a community that's centered around trying to help people develop their mind, their body, and their soul. And so we do a lot of events across the UK for networking, for social gatherings, physical activities, spiritual workshops. It's all just centered around trying to help people who, for now, mainly they're in the medical dental profession, but anyone really, become the best versions of themselves and find their true potential. Because on paper, when you think about what we do, especially what we started doing, there's many people out there helping people with their career counseling and coaching and other aspects of their future aspirations. But I think what set us apart was we were very, very set on trying to help our students grow beyond just getting into their university, but helping them truly develop their character. And I think we're trying to make that bigger on a bigger scale by opening up more opportunities for people from the general public to be able to do that in the UK. So for now, it's still very much UK centered, but right now I'm in Pakistan trying to see what opportunities are on the ground and see how Medology can make its reach more universal. Because I know people that have been through our system who are very grateful to what they've been able to achieve and how they've been inspired. It's not because of me. There's a full team obviously around us. And it's not because of any one of us. It's because we're just blessed to have so many things to share and help others with. So I'm here just to see how we can, expand and grow. And I'm very grateful that I did connect with you a few months ago, who inspired me greatly with those opportunities that we can talk about. But that's the overview. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does. Yeah. It does, and I'm really glad that we have this opportunity together, where we can talk, because I fundamentally believe in what you are about in terms of Medology and the vision and the mission and the objective and the objectives that you have. I think they're phenomenal given this day and age. And what really attracted me, I don't think many people know, like we've obviously met several times before and we've had some really in-depth conversations. Is this service, it's not just a service I think that you're providing. I think what you're doing alongside with that service is you are executing your duty. And I think we tend to forget that element of duty. You're executing that duty for those who are coming up the ladder. And, I'd like us to talk a bit more about, the character side of the organization in terms of what you do, because I think that's really important to students. Like you can sort of study as much as you want.
Yeah.
In fact, a saying comes to mind. They say that knowledge is knowing what to say. Wisdom is knowing when to say it. So I find that you have both elements. You have the knowledge aspect in terms of what Medology is all about and what it's offering. But you're also looking and talking and pondering and pushing forward this aspect of wisdom that should accompany all knowledge. And knowledge, in fact, should drive you, I believe, towards wisdom. So with that, the character building, that aspect of the workshops, I think are very useful. And Pakistan is a great place, not only because we're both from here originally, but there's a lot of potential. Not everybody here, as you realize now, because I know you've done a few events already, not everybody here is looking to go to study medicine in England. But as we were discussing earlier off camera, that wherever anybody goes, they still, especially those who are medical students, they will be studying medicine. But studying medicine in and of itself should never really be the objective. There should be something else that should drive that. So again, coming back to the character. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that as well. Like, I'm not going to make it too personal, but I think we should keep it real. I think we should share our stories as much as you're comfortable with, because ultimately this is a public platform. You can't really control who's watching, but we're doing it with the intention that it will benefit others, inshallah. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that. I mean, we have talked about this, but I'd like you to tell us a little bit about it, because a lot of the people that are watching, I think they will benefit from it, inshallah.
So I think the problem with these fields, and I think with any high performing field that parents are often pushing their kids into, is that it seems like students can often make these aspirations their be all and end all. It seems like their happiness and everything is contingent upon them getting into medicine, getting into dentistry, and then once they're in medicine and dentistry, like their whole identity and their whole almost purpose just becomes these careers. And that is a huge problem, because it can result in things like burnout and whatever else. But what we're trying to do at an earlier stage is we're trying to help people, the students that we serve, realize that there's more to life, obviously, and that we have a greater purpose. And so I'm someone that's been very inspired by many people over the years, many amazing figures in different industries. And what we realized over the couple of years that we started doing Medology was that we are building a platform. We're building a big community that has the ability to really, make a difference and be impacted by, make impact on others and be impacted on. And so we've recently, over the last couple of years, started calling in people from all different industries to try and speak to our team, speak to our community, inspire them and show them that there's more to life than just, these careers. And there's a quote that one of our mentors tells us. He tells us that guidance is found through mentorship, and that if mankind is left to their own devices, it will only result in anarchy. So the point is that we need people to look up to be able to reach our potential. No one can become something just by themselves. We always need someone who's walked a few steps further than us for us to take inspiration from. So that's kind of the mindset. We call people in who our team can relate to, who they can look up to and be inspired by, so that they can become the best versions of themselves. And in terms of what that character development entails, it's everything really. It's mind, body, and soul, like true holistic sort of development. It's not just confined to one aspect of things. We want people to be the best versions of themselves in their careers, in their personal life, with their families, with their friends, everyone. And because it's almost like we as the founders, me, myself, I'm on a huge journey to become the best version of myself. And in some ways, I'm trying to help others along with me on that journey, because I've benefited so much, and I'm quite passionate for others to experience what I've experienced as well through that. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of where it's come from.
No, it does. And you've already told me this. I mean, this is really for the benefit of those who are watching and listening to you for the first time. And I think for what all the things that you've just said, that's one of the reasons why I got involved with you as well. But in my personal experience and with all that I've been doing, I think this is fundamentally what's lacking. This sense actually is what's lacking in our youth who are going through the system. I think, and this is, again, it's my experience. I could be wrong, and some may disagree, but I have found that we are, many of our youth today, many of the students going through the Western education system, whether it's Pakistan or the Western countries like Europe, it doesn't really make a difference, because it's a Western secular system that's operating in Pakistan as well. It's sort of designed in a way where you not lose sight. You don't really have that anchor, and you don't really know what you are doing it for, which then leads to all sorts of problems. I mean, anxiety, depression. I mean, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about that, but we live in the same world, and I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to, medically advise us. But generally speaking, I think we can all talk about it. We've experienced it at some point in our lives, because stress causes that. Unless you have an anchor, it's very easy to fall into that abyss of depression and anxiety. And that's where the whole mentorship comes into play. Lead by example, and sort of have that guidance to sort of navigate through the choppy waters that we find ourselves in. And what comes to my mind is this study. I would recommend this to everybody, to get a hold of this book called Collapse of Parenting by Leonard Sachs. Like phenomenal work. And we won't go into that because today's not, the purpose of this podcast isn't that. But I'd like to mention what he said, one of his findings. And he said a surgeon came to him who was making about $800,000 a year. And a surgeon said to him that, I wish I had an option. And Dr. Sachs asked him, he said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, I've worked all my life to be a surgeon. And yes, I'm helping a lot of people, but I'm making a lot of money. But I feel that it's all for nothing. And that's why I wish I had another option. And Dr. Sachs kind of probed him further, and he said, well, why didn't you tell me what you want to do with, why do you find yourself in a bind? Yes, you're making a lot of money, and there's so much good you can do with that money. He said, well, I don't find meaning in what I'm doing. I wish I could do other things, but I don't have an option in terms that I cannot leave this profession. There's no other profession, there's no other work that would pay me at this stage of my life $800,000. Because out of that money, there's a big mortgage that is paid for. My kids' private tuition fees are paid for. My wife's and household expenses are paid for. I fear that if I stop working as a surgeon, I lose out on that salary. I will not be able to maintain or afford this life that I've built for myself. But he said, Dr. Sachs, you know what? He said, what? I don't find any meaning in it. And I don't know how long I can carry on. So what you said a key word earlier about burning out. It's not just for students. It's for those who are in it for the wrong reasons. And they find at the end of the day that it's not really what they want to do with their life. And yet they spend an entire life doing something that they don't really want to do. And it is so unfortunate. In fact, gives me goosebumps to think that you spend such a long time of your life to realize this. If only you had a good mentor who had actually done that run before you. And that's why I think Medology is fantastic. And I'm sure you're not the only one, right? But you're here and we're talking about Medology, right? So I'm not saying Medology is the only organization. And but I agree with you, and I believe in you, and this is not flattery by any measure. I genuinely mean this. I think this element of guiding others who are coming up the ladder in all spheres, not just sort of academically, but from a spiritual and a character point of view, because you come in the real world, you come across all of those things. And the other thing that I really liked that you said, and we've talked about this many times before, about elevating. oneself.
Yeah.
You know, from in at the end of the sessions in Medology or at the end of this podcast, you should be better to how you were when you came in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point? Right. So, you know, and that's why I think, and there's another study that's mentioned in the book. We won't go into that, but I'd generally like to mention this point. Dr. Leonard Sachs, what he says is that with regards to collapse of parenting, and again that ties into what we were just talking about, mentorship. Because I feel Medology is all about it. It's you know, mentorship is it's a very important part, integral part of the organization. He says one of the reasons why because he's American, so he's talking about America. I've just been to America recently, so we can.
How was it?
Oh, incredible! We'll talk about that in a second. But he's talking about the American society and community and education and X, Y, and Z. And he says the reason parenting has collapsed, and he makes that point by saying because you find kids, American kids especially, I think that's all over the world, but he's talking about America generally. He said, you know, there's no more respect for teachers or for parents. And one of the reasons parents are failing in parenting is because they are not looking to be parents to their children. They're looking to be friends with their children at the expense of parenting. Right? And I think, again, that's very relevant topic to talk about, especially on these platforms, people like yourself, and you know this anyway, but it's, you know, it's for the benefit of our audience. Is that just the way a parent needs to parent? And in that, if the primary objective is not to be friends with your child, but to help them grow up to be independent and good human beings, that's what a parent, generally speaking, is all about. If you don't have that, you have what Dr. Sachs says, collapse of parenting. Similarly, with organizations like ours, like Medology, and I would say ours because I'm a part of it, alhamdulillah. So with Medology, if you take out the mentorship aspect of the entire exercise, then what are you really left with other than a few books for dummies, you know, how to do for dummy books. So and a mentor is not looking to be your friend. A mentor is not looking to give you what he has other than, or she has, other than the fact that they will share their experience with you and advise you sincerely. The element of khulus is very important. Like, it's got to be sincere. Like, there's no vested interest other than the fact that we want you to do well, which I find a beautiful sentiment at the very least, because it's about elevating you. And that's what you said earlier, that you want to elevate. Like, people have to leave this podcast or your workshop or our workshop better than they were when they came in. So it ties in really well. So I think a mentor cannot be a parent. A mentor is a mentor, but he performs to quite a lot of extent the role of a parent, because the parents are not performing that role anymore. Especially the kids. I mean, a lot of the kids that I've come across, a lot of the youth, very, very bright, many of them, especially in universities here that I visit, and the one I visit in America as well. But unless it's an institution or an organization that has the values that you are talking about and you have instilled, along with a very, very capable team and your mentors, unless it's that, I feel the students or the youth is not getting what they get from parents, and they're not getting it from the educational institutes, and they're not affiliated with a organization like Medology, for example. So they are missing out on something which could possibly or arguably be said to be the sole reason for their failure in life.
I mean, that is amazingly well put.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could put anything as eloquently as you have, but I think I can really relate to what you're saying in terms of, I mean, I'm very grateful for my parents and everything, and I'm sure we all are.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that you maybe you can't get from them, or you can't speak with them about, and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think we were so inspired and so passionate to try and connect our team and then the wider community with people who had, you know, achieved something in a particular field or had certain qualifications in a particular field.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way that they can get the advice that they would never have been able to get anywhere else. But I think what I'm trying to say is, one big example I can think of is growing up, I never had access to like an imam for any Islamic questions or guidance.
Right, yeah.
And that's why we have an imam at Medology. And we're not because we're like an Islamic organization, but because people like me, the Muslims in the team, for them to be able to access someone that they can speak to who's relatable and understands their situation and what they're going through and get advice on different issues in their life, whether they're even Islamic or just general life stuff, has been incredible and transformational. And for me, and I know the rest of the team can also attest to that as well. So accessing people who have particular knowledge or expertise is such a invaluable thing. And I think growing up, I never appreciated like the fact that experience and knowledge is such an important thing to try and seek. I was very passive, and so I think opening this door has been I've seen the effects like in the team, and it's something which I really am passionate to put on a wider scale, because I know people don't have this access to these type of people, and being able to facilitate that is an honor, and it almost feels like a duty as well, because if we have the access, if we have the access, we have the platform, we should try and spread this invaluable stuff. So that's kind of, I can really relate to what you said.
No, true. And like with the imam that you mentioned, it's not just an imam who leads prayers. He can do that, but an imam is really somebody who has knowledge, who's a scholar, and practices accordingly. And I think that's paramount for any healthy or good organization with the values that Medology has to have, because without it won't be complete. There's a really big part missing. And what we were saying earlier on when we were having a discussion is about the purification, the movement thing. Now, this is a fiqh concept, right? About if there's water, like still water, like water that isn't flowing. So, that by definition does not have the attributes to purify, because itself is not pure. Whereas a flowing water, right, is pure and also has a quality to purify. So, there is this element which needs to be appreciated, especially for this conversation and for those who are watching, is that's fiqh, taharat, purification, right? And what that's teaching you is that there is goodness in movement, right? So if your imam, who is also knowledgeable, practicing obviously, is able to advise somebody who finds themselves studying 4 years or 3 years of medicine, themselves in a bind, or finds that surgeon, instead of Dr. Leonard Sachs finding that surgeon, he finds that surgeon, and he says to him, I'm stuck, right? What do I do? And I'm just making a lot of assumptions here, but I think maybe the Imam from Medology may advise that, look, this is a fiqh concept and there is barakat in movement. So why don't you have faith in Allah and move from where you find yourself suffering for the better opportunity that may be awaiting for you from Allah if you make that move. So organizations like Medology that are seeking to do what they're seeking to do for the community must have this aspect to them, and our tradition is probably the best suited, because we have I think within the Islamic tradition we have honestly and loyally, diligently, in the best possible way throughout the compared to other civilizations perhaps, held on to all the treasures of knowledge that have come through the ages into the hands of the Muslims. So and we can think of 100 figures in mind, yours and mine, but this is not a history lesson, but the point is made simply that knowledge has then been brought to the shores of the Western countries, I suppose. And, they have made out of it what they have. But ultimately, the goodness that comes from that knowledge needs to be part of organizations that seek to help those who are seeking knowledge, and not just information, to be able to be of service to others. That's why I think, our tradition is best footed
100%.
to do that. Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many principles we've taken from the tradition and implemented in just general kind of career counseling type sessions we've done, and our general philosophy towards advising students and everything. You'd be surprised how much of that is almost powering behind the scenes. So there's so much obviously wisdom that can be taken, and that's why we love to find people with that wisdom that we can then sort of extract and then apply it in this context. Because that's the beauty, isn't it, of Islam and the tradition, that we can take any society, any place, any time, apply the principles because they're timeless, and see magic. Magic, but beautiful results.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. But I think with the environment that we're living in, which is incredibly toxic, given how the social media is working and how the parents are unable to do their duty, and how teachers are not that respected anymore, unfortunately. Again, coming back to this point, we need organizations like this, that will have all the colors. All the relevant colors, of course, within reason, but they will have all the colors. We're not talking about a rainbow or anything like that, but we're actually, maybe we are. But the point is, it should have all the aspects that covers all sides of things. And I call that whole. I don't personally, but I'm sure wherever I've got it from. But wholesome education. That's what we need, and it's not just about theory; it's about practical world as well. Because you've seen it, right? So the world is very different, even between two countries, like from the UK. And I think it'll be interesting and beneficial for those who are watching. I have an example that I want to put to you in a moment. Life is very different, even for a medical student in England compared to Pakistan. So the example I want to put before you is there's a family that we know. They live in France. So the very young boy, young man, and he wanted to study medicine, but he didn't make the mark, and he didn't get into a good university. In fact, any university in France, I think they have a strict criteria of sorts. So he moved from France to Belgium to study. I don't know how happy he is. So I'll have to ask him that because it's been a year or two now. I'm not sure even if he's dropped out or if he's carried on. So I'll have to, but let's assume he's not happy. What would your advice be to him? Should he have made that move in the first place? Imagine if he had come to Medology. How would you advise him?
So I think it does center around your why, in terms of how strong your passion and desire to pursue this thing is. Because I know it's an easy answer to say, but if you want something really badly, then you'll make it happen, and you'll get through it regardless of what comes your way. But that doesn't take away from the difficulties. But the first thing I would advise anyone that wants to go abroad is make sure your why is very strong, because the journey is difficult. Medical school is 5 years long, and dental school as well. Lots of ups and downs, lots of constant exams. And even when there's not exams, in the back of your mind, sometimes you almost feel guilty that, okay, I'm not studying, I'm not doing enough, and whatever else. So there are lots of challenges on the journey to medical school and in medical school as well. So you have to have a very strong why, a very strong reason behind why you want to do this. And sometimes your parents telling you to do it is not good enough.
Mostly Pakistani parents.
Yeah, but I think all over the world. But
Beta doctor
yes. That often isn't a strong enough reason, because when you really get tested, it might not be the thing that can really help you get through. So the first thing is you need to have a very, very strong why. And then second of all, you have to go into this realizing that, if I'm going to go abroad from outside of my usual comfort zone and environment, it's going to be difficult, because it's already difficult to go to university. And then in another country, it's even more difficult, where you have to land in a new environment, understand the culture there and the different nuances, and you feel like an outsider. So you have to be mentally prepared, first of all, I think. But then when it comes to the actionable on the ground stuff, I think one beauty about medicine is that because it's something that people are quite passionate about, you might be able to find people that are also passionate about it and who you can connect with and click with. But also because of the nature of the degree and how it attracts people from all kind of backgrounds and ethnicities, I think everyone that goes to medical school can probably find their tribe somewhere, somehow. You just maybe have to go searching for it. So staying in your room and being miserable about where you've ended up or the situation probably isn't going to help. I guess it almost links to the water purification thing. You have to kind of make a move, and you have to move and do some action to try and find your people, because they will be there. There'll be plenty of people in university who are also feeling exactly what you're feeling, but maybe you have to be the person that feels almost brave enough to take that step to find them and maybe open up to them and build those connections. So if someone is abroad and they're struggling, then I think finding the tribe will make the experience, because university is made by the people around you and the experiences. And if you're going through it alone, it's going to be 10, 20, 100 times harder. So you have to find your people. And that's probably something I'd advise someone to do as soon as they get into university, when they're on the ground. Try and connect and network with people. And luckily, you
sorry to interrupt, but connect and network with people from the other side of the camp, like from other fields or within your...
I think both are important. I think having friends within medicine is important, because as you go through the course and you have your lectures and studies and exams, it's good to have the people with you on those kind of like adventures and the challenges as well, because sometimes it will get difficult, but sharing the struggle between you guys can almost actually this is quite a famous concept, that sharing struggles or shared struggle builds oxytocin, which is a love chemical between people. So actually sometimes the best way to strengthen your relationship with someone is to go through some sort of pain together. It brings you closer. And I'm sure everyone can relate that.
There's actually a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, if you really want to get to know somebody, travel with him or do business with him. I'm not sure if there's a third one, but live with them. Yeah. So it is that sharing of struggles, because traveling is not easy. Business is definitely not easy. And living is impossible. so fair enough.
No, because I guess it brings out the real person. Like whatever mask they have, obviously it gets taken away when they're really under the pump. So having friends within medicine is important, because it lets you stay, strong on the journey and the difficulties. But then outside is important as well, because it gives you that grounding and also makes you realize the world is more than just healthcare, and opens your mind as well. You'll definitely be a better doctor or dentist if you've been exposed to things outside of medicine and understand the world in a wider sense and other industries, because you'll take that into your practice, whether it's something as simple as relating to patients, because your patients aren't just going to be medics and dentists, your patients are going to be from all backgrounds, or whether it's ideas you could have to innovate in healthcare. I think having people around you that have no link to the profession is so important as well. It all goes hand in hand. So the summary is, if someone's struggling, we'd advise them to find their tribe. And if they don't have a tribe, if they're still struggling to find someone, they can come to one place. What place is that? Guess Ustad. That place is Medology. Because there's always going to be a community. And I think that's almost why I'm so passionate to build the community side of this, because again, growing up, my family's from Pakistan. I grew up in the UK. And we lived in a town initially that we were one of the very few like Pakistani families there. So I never really felt that sense of community. Like, for example, small things that people here probably take for granted are like Eid. Eid together, Eid with like the whole family. I never had that growing up. And many other different things. So I think because I feel like I missed out on having a community and wish that I could have had that experience, I'm almost trying to make it now. So for almost myself, people, my friends around me, and maybe even my future family and stuff as well. So the point is, this is always a safe space. And I'm not saying that in a way to sell or pitch Medology. I just genuinely mean that because our community wing makes no money. It's not for profit. It's just genuinely there for people that maybe lack a safe space to feel comfortable. And people that are trying to find some sort of purpose and meaning. So that answers the question.
No, that's very, very noble, if I can say it like that, because I think it's also very important. Like, with going back to my university days, I remember medical students being so zoned in, and they had time for nothing else. So you're saying, one should, those who are going through this stage of life now, find your tribe. But how do you find the time? The course is designed in a way where you have no time other than to do what you're there to do.
Well, maybe not. It genuinely depends on how you've been guided and your mindset. And I know different universities vary, but generally, if this is a red flag and warning to anyone, that medical students like to pretend they're busier than they are. It's some often
Really?
yeah. It's
I don't think some people will. Some people may not agree.
they
with
may not
you.
agree, but if you have the right guidance and the right approach towards your studies
Yeah.
as a medical student, you can make time for anything.
Yeah.
Not just me, but this team is a big example of the fact that you can do so much outside of medicine.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of other people doing amazing work with their degrees. So it's definitely possible.
And mashallah, you've set up this organization whilst doing your degree at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm quite famous for, I'm not famous, but people make fun of me for, is whenever they come across my LinkedIn, they see that I've said that medicine's a side hustle for me. So I spent more time doing this.
Yeah.
So my balance was a bit off, but also that led to sacrifices as well. Because obviously I didn't get the full university experience. I didn't make much friends on the ground at university because I was so tied up with this. So everything comes at a cost, but you can definitely make time for anything that you want to do. But on that note, actually, we've got a big community side, and one of the reasons that we connected was because I saw that you're someone that we really need. Like I saw what you were doing on Instagram and social media, and you seem to occupy a very unique space, Ustad, where you're from Pakistan, but you grew up in the UK. You're fluent in English, fluent in Urdu. You bridge both worlds, and I haven't never seen someone like that who can bridge both worlds as seamlessly. You can fit into the UK as a average British Pakistani. I don't mean average in that way, but just a British Pakistani. You fit into here as a native Pakistani. So I found that very interesting, and I think there are a lot of people in the UK who could benefit from you and your journey and your experiences. And I was so inspired. So for context, everyone, I met Ustad in Birmingham a few months ago after we arranged, like we spoke online, had some back and forth, and we finally managed to arrange a meeting, which is quite short, but it was nice. It was fun. So we arranged that meeting. We met up. Ustad drove from down south. I drove from up north. We met in the middle. We had coffee, and I think I was first of all very grateful for the warmth and the love that you showed me. Without even.
Likewise.
By the way, this is not a paid promotion, but from the moment that we said salam and hugged, like I felt like a genuine kind of like connection to you. You're like. Don't take offense, but you're like in between a brother and an uncle. Like you're like
I'm not that
in
old.
between that. No, exactly. So you're not quite an uncle.
Yeah.
But you're a bit older than me to be my brother in that sense. So
I feel the same.
I found that kind of like a very interesting kind of middle ground. But essentially, the biggest take home that I got from you was just how much potential there is in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And the fact that people like me, we've written the country off. Most of us have, and I can attest based on my experience in the UK. Pakistan is almost a joke to many people like me who've grown up there. But you inspired me in so many ways that I can't even describe the way you did it. Just maybe how sincere you were about it, and your journey of how you gave up, such a comfortable life in the UK. You moved to Pakistan and gave up so many luxuries that you could say, and you still did it. And definitely there was a reason behind it, and which you explained. But that was so inspirational for me that you did that. And you opened my eyes to how much potential there is, and how we have a duty towards the land that kind of birthed us and where we're from. Like if you trace back the calendar, and if you go back in time, we're all from here, and our ancestors are from here. And you said something very profound, which hit me, which is that all of us have like one special ancestor who was definitely blessed by Allah in some way for us to end up where we are now. Like we are some of the most blessed people on earth. I think there's a statistic that 4.5 billion people in the world lack a flushable toilet.
Really?
So already just by having a toilet we can flush, we are in such a privileged majority. And so many other things. But the point is, we definitely had some special ancestor who did something and was very favored by Allah, and who is the reason that we're here where we are now. And we owe something to them and the land they came from. And that hit me. So that's kind of why I'm here, and that's why I want to keep on doing things with you, and I'm very excited to see what we can make out of this as well. Inshallah.
No, you're too kind, and may Allah bless you and keep you safe, and inshallah. And I would ask everybody watching, just make dua that what Medology's come out to do, and inshallah with you part of it, along with all the other brothers and sisters and everybody else, especially the mentors, inshallah.
Special dua for the mentors.
Yes. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq to be of service to mankind. to this world, because it's a blessing, and unfortunately we're not really looking after it well enough. And I really want to talk about my trip that I just did to America.
I was going to ask you about that, actually.
Yeah, no, you mentioned earlier. I've never been to the belly of the beast, as they say. So that is like when we go to America regularly, but I went to the south, the southern part of America. So past Virginia and those sort of ends, and I was invited to this theology college to speak at their convocation. But I met this community, African American community, possibly one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And also at the same time, struggling with some incredible challenges in their life, in their community, generally speaking. But it was incredible. But what really inspired me is their refusal to give up. Their absolute, what's the right word for it? I mean,
resilience.
Resilience. Yeah, their resilience. I mean, resilience, I don't think is a big enough word. So I mean,
fortitude, resolve.
Yeah, their fortitude, yes. Yeah. They had so much of that. And what was driving them is not this life. What's driving them is the next life. And to see that in practice, to see that in all aspects of their life, from the very young ones to the not so young ones, was incredibly inspiring and refreshing. And I realized that, it's that desire, the most raw desire that you can not in the not a hawa, in the sense of the flesh, but this desire to be of service, right, overwhelms everything, overcomes all challenges, right? And I think that comes with responsibility. And you said that keyword, duty. We are duty bound. We have this debt that we owe because of all the blessings that we have. And, especially within the medicinal world, people who are studying medicine to qualify as doctors, but, the shifa is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously, we're not claiming that mantle. But the point is, that has to come with that character that goes alongside that noble intention to be of service to mankind in this respect, which I find is on many respects is missing. And this is what I found the opposite of in that community in America, because they had that desire and they had that drive and they were putting in the work and they were facing challenges. And that part of the world is not kind to African Americans, especially Muslim African Americans. And some of them came forward and I said, what do you want to study? And they said, we want to study medicine. And I'm going to put them in touch with you. So inshallah. But the point being is that what I find in Medology, something, again, we were saying this earlier, we've had a lot of conversations before this recording, so, there's a lot of things that we touched upon. Something I find unique about Medology, again, coming back to the mentorship element of things, like professionally, I'm from the legal world. So what we do is CPDs, like professional courses that we have to go to every year to be able to get our practicing certificate at the end of it. And I'm sure you have the same.
Exactly the same medicine as well.
The fact that you have all the things that you said about your mentors attached with Medology and the emphasis you put on that side of the organization, what that translates to me, what that means to me is that you care. Like I go and do, like many others, we go do our professional courses and CPDs. It's like they have the information, they give you the information and they say, this is what you need to do it, now go away. Pay us some money and go away. I don't think Medology is about that. I think, yes, you will give the information, you will do some training, relevant training, and you will obviously guide and do all of that. But alongside comes this element of deep concern for your well-being, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think, that's priceless. And, to be honest, perhaps something one shouldn't say on camera, but maybe I'd like to ask everybody to join in this dua that may Allah give success to Medology, to all those who are involved in it, and stay true to all the things that we've discussed. Because really, right now, from a home to the educational institute, we need that. We need that human touch, if I can put it that way. We need that human raw concern for the well-being of the others, which is relevant to the age that we live in. So may Allah give you success. Alhamdulillah, it's an absolute pleasure for us to be together, for you to be here. I'm really glad we've had this opportunity for you to say all the things that you've said. And thank you again for all your kind words. I don't think I deserve it, but Jazakallah khair. And I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to doing all the great things we've discussed, inshallah.
Ameen. Thank you, Ustad. And it's been an honor. And I hope to see you in the UK very
Absolutely,
soon.
yes, yes, inshallah. So I'll be going to the UK again very soon, as promised, and we'll do. And inshallah, I pray, and I would ask everybody else to pray, and I'm with you 100%, inshallah. Working on characters, and as we've already discussed, there's a lot of other much more qualified individuals that are part of this caravan of goodness for our brothers and sisters. The character building, the counseling, just a loving listening ear. So I'm looking forward to the workshops that we'll do together, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Ustad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.